There are a number of fairs underway today in Connecticut, including the Guilford Fair and the Orange Country Fair. And of course, there's the Big E just over the border in Massachusetts. Fairs are, of course, a part of Americana, and they've been held for hundreds of years. Joining me to talk about how and why they started is David Grindle. He's president and CEO of the International Association of Fairs and Expos. David, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Eric. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. It's a good day here in Connecticut to maybe go check out one of the local fairs that are happening this weekend. But tell me about the history of these events. They go back a long way, right?
They go back further than the country goes back. The first fair in America happened in 1765 in York, Pennsylvania, and it's still going on. You can go to the York Fair every year. So fairs have been part of America since before there was an America to be part of.
Is there something that is a defining feature? I mean, does a community just declare that it's a fair? Or are there certain things that, will kind of qualify it as a type of fair you're talking about in your book?
So to IFE, we're about our agriculture fairs. So that there's an agriculture component wherever you are. And for most people, they think that, that's your classic cows and pigs and sheep. But you can even get to, agriculture apple festivals. I live in the Northeast as well. And, it's coming apple picking season. And so that's part of what brings people together. And then along with that, we have competitions, everything from your traditional entertainment competition to still the classic sewing food competitions, who makes, the best brownies in your community. Those are kind of the fun things that bring people together, and that's how we classify a fair.
How about you talked about the York Fair going on over and over and over for hundreds of years. Is that part of it too, is the repetition, and that, people go with their parents and then they go with their kids and then maybe with their grandkids, and it just becomes sort of part of the fabric of these communities?
Such the fabric of these communities, because you build those family relationships and memories. I know we lived in Indiana when our kids were little, and going to the Monroe County Fair every year with my boys was one of the things I still look back on. I'm not sure they remember it as much as I do. But it's building that part of your community that really not only do we go, but we celebrate. You go to the fair, and it's your local farmers, it's your local businesses, it's your local church and civic groups that are selling food and raising money. So it is about the community and building that community sense that you just can't help but enjoy that time together.
We're going to take a look at some video while we talk of the Durham Fair, which is one of the classics here in Connecticut, David. You also, your organization put out some economic numbers, and people might think that, we're looking at amusement rides and fair food and things like that, but there's a lot of economic data behind what your organization does. Tell us how these fairs affect the community economically.
So the fair, typically in your community, first of all, you need to know, is usually put on by a nonprofit group. So your local agriculture society, a Grange, something like that. But they take the money that comes into the fair, they're spending money locally. They're buying their supplies, they're buying the food that needs to be purchased, and that all starts adding up. And what we've seen is that in the Northeast, small fairs like we have in our community, on average, they're coming into about a $5 million economic impact on their community. And as a whole, across all of the Northeast, all the fairs together are about a $5.2 billion economic impact. So there's a lot of money that's flowing through, and it's staying locally. A lot of things come and go, and you feel like your money's going away. This is staying in your community and supporting community groups, providing scholarships, you name it.
And certainly you mentioned some of the Northeast numbers, and you do have it broken up by region, but in the national numbers, you say every dollar invested, $9 is returned to the community. In the Northeast numbers, 13.7 million attendees, 29% of all people in the U.S. attend a fair every year. It may seem to people that, I have my local fair, but across the whole nation, this is a big deal.
There's close to 1,400 fairs across the nation, the vast majority of which are small, which by our definition is fewer than 25,000 attendees. And then you have, the monster fairs that are seeing 2.2 million come through in 11 days. Just even here in the Northeast, We've got several state fairs that are going, and then we've got, as you were saying earlier, the Big E. I was talking with them a few days ago. With the weather like this, they're seeing 100 to 150,000 people a day.
Yeah, then we're looking
it's
at some
big
pictures right
business
now
going on at the fair.
Yeah, we're looking at some pictures right now from the Big E, and that our crews took when they were up there, and it really is amazing to talk about the number of people. One thing that I thought was interesting was, in the Northeast alone, 118,000 hotel room nights. And that got me to thinking, we know all the local fairs. We know that we've all been to the Big E and some of the big ones around Connecticut. But these fairs all over the country. So let's talk about those hotel room nights. What if someone's watching and says, next year, I'm going to go where David tells me to go? Well, tell us some cool ones around the country. We got about a minute left. Where should people check out? What are some neat things happening?
So I tell you, in the Northeast, especially, if you haven't done the Big E, you really need to go do it. There's no fair like it. But also, there are fabulous small fairs. You want to have a lovely weekend, go to Maine and the Maine fairs that are up there. The big fair in Maine is in Freiburg, but there's so many other small ones that you can get around to. If you want to hit the road, the three big fairs: State Fair of Minnesota, State Fair of Iowa, and State Fair of Texas. They all compete for who gets to be the biggest, and they all have a serious chocolate chip cookie competition going on. So for state fairs, there are those, but I really encourage people to get out into their county fairs in spaces across Wisconsin. You have no idea how many different ways you can have cheese curds until you've been to county fairs in Wisconsin. But really, take it out and get to see the people and get to see the agriculture folk that are out there, and take time to talk to a farmer. 70% of Americans trust farmers the most, and a fair's always got one that you can get questions answered about your food and food source.
All right, well, I was taking some notes. I'm more of a chocolate chip cookie guy than a cheese curd guy, but I've got my list of where I should attend. David Grindle, President and CEO of the International Association of Fairs and Expos, thank you for being with us here on CT25.
Thanks, Eric. Have a good Sunday.
And that is CT25 for this week. CBS Sunday Morning is coming up next. Of course, have a great rest of your weekend, and we will meet you back here in Studio A next Sunday morning.